hello. This is Christina Barr, and you're watching Black Tea News. Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and I assume you know the news that Trump really was indicted. Of course, people have been working toward this goal for a very long time, and now it's here. And even some folks on the left are like, this is a pretty flimsy case. We've talked about this is a pretty flimsy case since it didn't happen when Trump said it was going to happen. I was starting to wonder if it was going to happen, but it's New York. There's a lot of crazy people there, a lot of people who hate his guts, and you got a lot of corrupt people there who, wanted to make this happen, have their names in the news, etc. So here's where we are. We'll talk about the legality of it, which we already covered when this was, speculative, and what it's going to do for Trump and everyone else who's in the race, because it's definitely going to bump him up as far as his support. Will that ultimately help him get back to the White House? I guess you'll see in my commentary what I think about it. There's a lot of moving factors here today. Also, it's Trans Visibility Day, and we're a year out from Biden's ridiculous statement that he made last year. But he put out a tweet that a lot of people I'm seeing having a bad reaction to, and the media is having some really crazy reactions to the tragedy that happened on Monday, where there's a gunwoman who went to a school and killed little children and staff administrators, 3 staff members, 3 9-year-olds, and people really want to respect her pronouns, and the White House was like, oh, the trans community are under attack, and there's people coming against Christians and all kinds of crazy commentary. I got to show you this Chiron. If you're on Facebook, you already saw it. I already shared it there. That was on MSNBC, and it's Joy Reid, and you guys know how much we talk about Joy Reid on the show because they always have some crazy stuff, but it's really bizarre. And I also want to show you some videos from a TikToker that I saw yesterday, or maybe it was early this morning, but I wanted to show you guys because someone was having a reaction. They are a trans person, trans woman. So he went on about how he was upset about, people wanting to respect the pronouns, and received such pushback from people, and did like a follow-up video. And I was just reading through the comments. I'm like, this is just really unbelievable how deranged people are about this topic. And I've had a lot of thoughts. I'll continue to have a lot of thoughts, but there's a lot to get to today. So anyway, before we jump into it, please go to blacktnews.com. Check out different content on my website, different articles, different videos. I did post an article the other day about the state of our mental health in this country. I think we are literally driving people to be crazy. I don't know how much of that is because of politics. I know people are being driven nuts. I think not all there to be unwell because of politics. As far as the motivation for politics, I don't know. Did the chicken come before the egg in that scenario? I don't know. But we don't listen to each other. We talk past each other. We want to throw out objective morality, objective truth. So if everyone has a truth, what's real, up is down. I said in my article, it's no wonder the movie Everywhere, Everything, All at Once that won Best Picture. It's no wonder that a movie about a lesbian who wanted to unalive herself because she's so grieved at the vastness of all the possibilities of the multiverse. Won Best Picture, especially since her traditional mother and grandfather came to accept her. No wonder that won Best Picture. If you like that film, you're a little weird. I did not like that at all. I did not like that at all. I'm still probably going to do separate video talking about it, but I hated that movie. I wanted to walk off the airplane at some points, but yeah. No wonder why that won Best Picture. It really speaks, I think, to the to the mood of the country. It was so wild. So please check out that article when you have the time, and check out other stuff we have at the website. Since we're in a Trump mood today, we got the GOAT hoodies you guys can check out. GOAT t-shirts. I do have them in different colors. If you don't know what GOAT stands for, it stands for greatest of all time. So we got that. We got the I voted for President Trump and all I got was historic peace deals, border security, ISIS destroyed, gas under $2, tax cuts, no new wars, and this lousy t-shirt. So there's a list there of stuff. And also, let me show you the crack is whack shirt. I made this after the stories about the crack pipes of the Biden administration. So those are things that are available at the store that you guys can check out. Also, it is the last day of March, right? Yeah, tomorrow is April Fool's. We have lots of books you guys can check out because March is reading month. So if you did not know, I write books, and those are me pictured with my 15. I will have to take a new picture once I get my other book comes out. But I also have, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion that is available for pre-order that will be coming out next month. So it's approaching very soon. So make sure that you guys go ahead and pre-order your copy. So I write, I'll have the 2 nonfiction, but mostly I write fiction from all kinds of different genres. People ask me about, like, is it appropriate for this and that? I'll have to put out some kind of maybe short video or something, just briefly saying stuff. But I don't write. I write a vast amount of things, but nothing that's, if you watch like primetime TV, you're not going to see anything worse than my books that you've probably seen on TV, I guess is the fastest way to kind of explain it. But if you want to check out some of my books, you can go to blackteeners.com. If you go to the merchandise panel, there's a banner at the top will take you to my book website, but my book website is ninjadustpublishing.com. Someone's like, what kind of name is Ninja Dust Publishing? In my book, Super Kid, which I will show you guys the cover again. Well, I guess I didn't show you the cover, but let me show you the cover. Which I did myself, by the way. And with Super Kid, the main character, Felix, he believed that, God, when he made him, he used special ingredients. So one of the ingredients is ninja dust because they're so fast. All they leave behind is just like a little dust. So the line is like, it's like fairy dust, but not. So that's where the line came from. It was something that was unique to me. And Super Kid was the very first book that I did. So I actually got the idea from my dad. And just hearing some of his crazy stories when he was a kid, he literally thought he was turning into Superboy. So I'm like, let me assemble these in a book. So they're not. It's Super Kid isn't the first book I wrote. It's the first book that I published, though. The first book that I wrote isn't published yet, so it's sentimental attachment to it. But one day, one day, not that I don't have I have sentimental attachment to all of them, but that my very first one, I'm still like, I need to retweak some stuff. But yeah, go ahead and check out my stuff on the website. Also, I want to give kudos to Bright American Pack. I'm in their studio today. If I say something today that triggers you, they don't care. I don't care. It doesn't work like that. But I've been in this studio for a minute, and I was talking with Pack President today, and just how much my channel has grown since the time when I originally came in here, when I had maybe not even 10,000 people, maybe it was close to on TikTok. My YouTube was like nothing at the time, maybe 100 people or something. And just last year, I think, like last summer, perhaps even later, but there was a point I'm like, gosh, am I going to hit 1,000? This is taking forever. And now I don't know, by the weekend we'll be at 50, it's 1,000. And so we're on a really fast trajectory. So I'm very thankful to everyone who has helped along the way and been part of the journey. And I will say Brighter Michigan Pack definitely has. So if you are anywhere, because they are expanding in some different places, but if you're in Michigan, I would definitely check out and help and get involved with Brighter Michigan Pack. So very grateful to them. So I do have a meme. It's a pretty simple meme. No one is above the law. And that's what everyone is saying again and again and again. No one is above the law. But here's a question for you as far as this Trump indictment. And you all know the answer to this question. Is Trump being indicted because no one is above the law? And it's just to go after him with this charge? Or are they particularly going after him because of his status and what he achieved, what they did not want him to achieve? And it's crazy because they wanted him to be the nominee. That was a whole he came down those escalators. He was on Morning Joe all the time. The media covered him like crazy. I don't know if you guys read Podesta email stuff as it was dropping, the WikiLeaks stuff. I was totally into it. So that was a big part of Clinton's strategy, was them getting Donald Trump to be the nominee, to the point where her staffers were concerned about it. So they wanted him to be the nominee. And they were the least afraid of Trump, Ted Cruz, and Ben Carson. Early on in the campaigns, who was the media talking about? They were talking about those guys, giving them free media. Now, Trump already had high name ID. He already had money where he could self-fund if he wanted to self-fund everything. But obviously, a lot of people donated and stuff and got involved. But he had a ton of free media, and they talked about those three the most. They were most concerned about people like Marco Rubio. And you can scoff at that or whatever, but Trump was a nominee. That's what they wanted. And he ended up winning. They thought, surely we got the worst one up there. The one, it's a joke. There's a compilation of everyone like, oh, Trump's not going to win. That I'm sure a lot of people go back and laugh at. At least I did, it was very therapeutic for a while watching, everyone be like, oh, it'll never happen. And so they were just so sure he would lose. But they, I guess, didn't think about the fact that Hillary Clinton was so much worse. And people were so done with her, with people like her. And they didn't want some establishment person. So one, he wasn't supposed to win, and they never got over it. They absolutely never got over it. They were angry the whole time. They did hoax after hoax, lie after lie, scandal after scandal, things that they blew up, impeached him twice over the craziest stuff, especially the first one. So they went after him nonstop to punish him, not just because they think he's so awful. How many presidents have been awful, and or politicians have been awful, done a lot of shady stuff? The Clintons have done so many shady things. They've done campaign finance thing that they just had to silently, quietly take care of. But the Clintons, people have these jokes about them taking out people. I mean, the fact that they're still around, the fact that Clinton, as in the former President Clinton, not the one who came up shy, was photographed with one of Epstein's sex slaves and getting a massage or whatever, and had that creepy portrait of him in the blue dress that they found. It's amazing how many people are just young and don't know what the blue dress is, by the way. I had a very viral tweet about it. People are like, what blue dress? I'm like, gosh, you babies. Just don't know anything. But even after all that, they still had him at the Democrat convention speaking, looking like a skeleton man. And then even after that, did a masterclass with Hillary and Bill. I guess it's probably not gonna happen now, but I was like, I think they're thinking about running her again. Now, I don't really get that vibe right now, but it kind of seemed like they were testing that water because I'm like, why? It seemed like they were trying to revamp, breathe some life into that husk. Can these super dry, dusty bones live again with the Clintons? It seemed like maybe they were trying to do that. But I'm like, they've done so many awful things. She's such a notorious liar. He's a huge perv, like publicly. There's all this stuff out there, and you still want him there. The Democrats can easily throw them away. Easily throw them away. Like there's nothing left to do with them. Nothing left that they have to do with them. But yet, why? Why have them speak at the convention? It just blew my mind. And they just got away with the obscenity of it all. But they hate Trump. And they didn't always hate Trump. He was fine when he was not, a Republican running for stuff. He was fine when he gave them money for their campaigns and they went begging. That was all fine and dandy. But once he decided to run, he was just awful. He was terrible. He was racist. He was all this stuff that he wasn't before, but now he suddenly is. And they're like, we got to, but he wasn't terrible enough to make the nominee. They wanted him to lose, but if you're a moral person, you would not push the worst option to be the nominee because there's always the chance. There's always the chance that they could win. So he wasn't supposed to win. They were so sure he wasn't going to win, and then he won. And it broke the brains of so many people on the left and people on the right who despised him and just became so never Trump. So never Trump. And we're seeing an extension of this right now, even with folks on the Lincoln Project. They very much want Trump to be the nominee again because I think they think that he's going to lose. So it's crazy that they think he's the worst. But at the same time, they want to prop him up. There's so much commentary from people saying that DeSantis shouldn't run. The Lincoln Project put out a hit against him the other day. Joy Reid said on The View that Trump should run. And George Conway, Kellyanne Conway's husband, was writing stuff about, it's not DeSantis's time and et cetera. It's like, why? You guys clearly want him there to be the nominee. And I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but it could be because, one, they think he's going to lose. So they want him to lose in the generals, to run in the primary, be the nominee, and then lose in the general, and the Democrats win. There's that. It could be just because even if they think he wins, there's a chance he could win. Obviously, he did it before. That if he wins, it's going to pump some more life back into, a lot of politics is going to pump money into, just in general, and the consultants, everybody. The more money you pump into it, the more people get paid. So there's that. It's going to pump a lot of money back into media. A lot of these news stations that were dying anyway, they got that lifeblood pumped back into them when Trump ran and Trump was in the White House, and every day was basically a circus, and people are watching all these channels to get their hate fulfilled on MSNBC and CNN, etc. And they're just dying. Their ratings are so terrible, in the tank, because that same sort of passion isn't there. They don't have the same hate for someone else. Everybody doesn't want to watch to see the crazy thing that Trump did in the White House. That's not there anymore. There's a lot of people who grifted, a lot of never Trumpers who aren't going to find the same vigor with someone else. He's just a cash cow for so many people. So even if he gets in the White House, even though they claim that he's the most terrible person and he's so dangerous for the country, I think they expect him to lose, and I think they want him to lose. But even if he did win, it could still be good for them because they still have their enemy, the face of the horrible person that they can fight every day and still make money off of, and then still try to undermine him and kick him out and, I don't know, come at him the same way they came at him the whole time he was in office before. So, um, like I said, so many, so many moving parts to all this. I'm gonna go ahead and read uh Trump's statement on the matter. Oh, by the way, before I read what Trump wrote, Nancy Pelosi had said the grand jury has acted upon the facts of the law. Not true. No one is above the law, and everyone has the right to a trial to prove their innocence. And people are just like, it's the government's job to prove that you're guilty. It's not Trump's job or his team's job. I mean, they got to defend themselves, but it's not their job to prove their innocence. This is it's he's innocent. Like he has to have the presumption of innocence going in there, right? That's what's supposed to happen, and you're supposed to prove that he's guilty. But it's not about what he did or didn't do. It's really not. They've always wanted to get him. They just always wanted to get him. They wanted to find a reason to prosecute. People are announcing, "I'm going to prosecute Trump," or we're gonna get him. He's gonna go to jail. And I'd always ask people when they say Trump's going to jail, I'm like, "What is he going to jail for?" People didn't even know. People didn't even have a reason. People didn't have a crime, but they just wanted to get him. And that's what this just feels like. Our Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson tweeted out last Tuesday when Trump was supposed to be indicted, or that's what was floating around. Trump said that was the case, and she's like, "Well, today's a good reminder to just tell people it's not a witch hunt if you're held accountable for things that you said about the 2020 election. It's just justice." And I'm like, how is it justice when the charges have nothing to do with what you're talking about? Because it just kind of seems like a witch hunt if you think those things are connected. Maybe they are connected as far as your motivation. Maybe you know he had the audacity to run. He had the audacity to run as a Republican. He had the audacity to win. He had the audacity to stand up to them, to the system, and he had the audacity to govern well, or at least do some good things. He didn't do everything perfect. Definitely caused a stir quite a bit. He had the audacity to have a good economy. He had the audacity to make those peace deals. He had the audacity to try to keep his promises. He had the audacity to make the American people, or at least a big chunk of the American people, feel like they were heard and seen and loved. That's his like power, that all these, whether you buy into, his love of the people or not, people feel like he was for them. If you're running for politics and you can make people feel like you legitimately care about them, you've got a secret sauce. You've really, because so many people are so cynical about politicians because they are cynical, and a lot of them want to amass power and have influence. But if you feel that they genuinely care about you and they want to take care of their constituents and not just have some kind of Easter egg or whatever when they retire and go work for a bunch of big lobbying stuff or whatever, that they care about you in the moment, you're going to do well. You're going to do well. And Trump captured that. And now his poll numbers are going to go up, I'm sure, in the primary. He's already fundraised a lot of money off this before. He's going to continue to do that because people do genuinely feel like he is standing in the way of people who he's a representation of the people, not like all of his not great qualities or whatever, but just like, I care about you. I'm thinking about you. I'm fighting for your concerns. Hey, you want that border closed? I'm going to try to do something about that border. You want this? You want no wars? I'm going to do my best to not do that. That he takes on people's concerns and hopes and fear, whatever people put into him, whether they're right in doing that. He's, just like a symbol, and they're trying to tear down that symbol. And you've probably seen that meme of Trump when he's pointing and he's in a chair and it's like black and white. And he's like, they're not after me, they're after you. People feel that to their core. People feel that to their core. So now they see that he's being indicted for something that's pretty bogus, something that's really a misdemeanor. And the only way that they could, something that's a misdemeanor that should, uh, statute of limitations been up, but they tied it to campaign finance. While these are people doing this that won't prosecute serious crimes going on in New York, people know that it's a witch hunt. It's so blatant to people, unless there's like facts of the case that people aren't aware of. But it's very flimsy, so people can see it's a witch hunt, and so they feel more defensive of Trump. So it's gonna help them. It's gonna help them. But here's a statement. This is political persecution and election interference at the highest level in history. Not wrong. From the time I came down the golden escalator at Trump Tower, and even before I was sworn in as your president of the United States, the radical left Democrats, the enemy of the hardworking men and women of this country, have been engaged in a witch hunt to destroy the Make America Great Again movement. You remember it, like just like I do: Russia, 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 the Mueller hoax, Ukraine, Ukraine, Ukraine. You know, the perfect phone call. Impeachment hoax 1, impeachment hoax 2, the illegal and unconstitutional Mar-a-Lago raid, and now this. The Democrats have lied, cheated, and stolen in their obsession with trying to get Trump, but now they've done the unthinkable, indicting a completely innocent person in an act of blatant election interference. Never before in our nation's history has this been done. The Democrats have cheated countless times over the decades, including spying on my campaign, but weaponizing our justice system to punish a political opponent who just so happens to be the president of the United States and far the leading Republican candidate for president has never happened before, ever. Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg, who was handpicked and funded by George Soros, is a disgrace. Rather than stopping the unprecedented crime wave taking over New York City, he has done Joe Biden's dirty work, ignoring the murders and burglaries and assaults he should be focused on. This is how Bragg spends his time. I believe this witch hunt will backfire massively on Joe Biden. The American people realize exactly what the radical left Democrats are doing here. Everyone can see it. Our movement and our party, united and strong, will first defeat Alvin Bragg, and then we will defeat Joe Biden. And we are going to throw every last one of these crooked Democrats out of office so we can make America great again. I think that was a pretty good statement from Trump. You know that I've been not happy with some of his statements and posts on like Truth Social as of late, but I think that's a pretty good summary of the nonstop harassment, and it's gonna fire people up. It's really gonna get him some support. I've been highly frustrated with a lot of things going on in his camp, and his post and other things as of late. And you hear me, I sound pretty fired up today. So people who are like have been on the drain and haven't shared my frustrations and have had rose-colored glasses like the whole time, they're probably like, I don't know, ready to figuratively go to war. And I say figuratively. I still don't think people should they should be careful about where they protest and what they do, because they just throw people in jail. Just throw people in jail. So yeah, I all this because of Stormy Daniels stuff, man. It's crazy. people who say people who say the Bible isn't true. There's a scripture that says, or it's a deep ditch. Don't tell me the Bible ain't true. Don't tell me. At least if you don't take the beliefs of it, there's some great philosophical knowledge that you need to read and brush up on. At least a little bit. So yeah, as this happened last night, you know, it's an evolving story. It's assumed that Trump is going to turn himself in. DeSantis had an okay statement about it. Um, we'll see what happens. Um, I'm I'm sure he doesn't want to be dragged out of his home or whatever. So I mean, he'll probably go in and handle it. He's a showman. He's done TV for a long time. He was the president, acted on a big stage. Still very Trump in on the big stage, but world stage. I think he will play it, you know, dignified. That he won't present in person like he presents with the all caps on Truth Social. Um, you'll see different things in person, and then he'll go back doing rallies and tell jokes and fire up people and be him. But people will continue to see that this is just the next evolution of a long line of get Trump to punish him like they wanted to punish him on day one. You know, it's crazy knowing how much that the Democrats, Hillary Clinton's camp, coming in, doing stuff like the Still dossier and the Russia collusion, and them being so much behind that, and it still captured the brains of so many voters and you know hosts on TV. It was just a nonstop part of our life, and so much of it was just a lie, and people got Pulitzer prizes and all kinds of garbage. And now we're just on our next saga um, of the Trump TV show. Anyway, like I said, it'll continue to evolve, and we'll follow the story. I want to move on and talk about Joe Biden. He released a statement about Trans Visibility Day, and he said on Transgender Day of Visibility, we want you to know that we see you just as you are, made in the image of God and deserving of dignity, respect, and support. We'll never stop working to create a world where you won't have to be brave to just be yourself. Now, if people were just themselves, they would be their gender as is. And, you know, I had a line that I said on a TikTok the other day called, Dr. Hasbro and Play Operation. You know, if you really did accept yourself as is, he had a terrible statement last year. He had put out a video saying, if you love your kids, you will affirm them. And they put out a chart. I wonder if I still have it saved. Give me 1 second while I had a list of the ways. Yep, got it. Gender affirming care. So this is what the White House had like put out for gender affirming care around this time, when they said, if you love your kids, you'll affirm them. And so it says has social affirmation, but it goes into puberty blockers, hormones, and gender affirming surgeries. So if you love your kids, you'll affirm them. Does that go all the way up to bottom surgery and feminization surgery and those procedures? At what point do you have is it like bingo where you have to like clear the board if you really love your kids? Because there's this one story of this mother. She had custody of her child. She was divorced, and she went to go visit her dad, and the next thing you know, her dad won't give her back, and they're like, oh, it's dangerous for her to be around you. And so, because her daughter's trans, and it believes she's a man, but she's always been girly, etc., blah, blah, blah. So her ex got with like a psychotherapist or something. And so she thought that a lot of this stuff was coming from her. But now she had custody of her child, like, except for like one day. And now now presently they won't let her see her child. All she can do is write to her. And this is someone who votes Democrat, lives in Illinois, and is on the left. She just doesn't accept that there's something wrong with her daughter's body. And that's enough for her to not have her child. So when people talk about this stuff and people think like, oh, you guys are going too far, you have to understand there's such a push and such a demand that you have to affirm, or else, you know, people are going to unalive themselves and you're so evil and you don't love your kids, etc. There's such a push, even in the medical field, like, oh, you think you are? Far be it from me to change your mind about that or convince you otherwise. But if you don't go along with the program, there are people out here who have literally lost custody of their children. And it's sad enough to hear the story about she can only write letters to her daughter. There's another story with a woman, her daughter, she lost custody of her, and her transitioning didn't make her daughter happy. And the story ended with her daughter stepping in front of a train. Someone told me about their daughter. It was someone that they knew that their daughter thought that she was trans, and the mother was just, she's on the left, but she's just like, I know my child, I know she's not trans. And so, but she knew that if she pushed her too hard, she would just double down. She was just really stubborn. So she was like, okay, well, we can't give you surgery or hormones or anything like that. We don't have that kind of money, but you can do, your hair is your hair. You can do whatever you want, and you can wear your clothes how you want or whatever. So I guess, I don't know if she ended up doing anything or not, but just kind of let her be, and her child, you know, got over it. But I'm just like, how many people would have just like, you know, indulged, you know, once their child said that? Or how many, but I'm like, what if her child went to someplace and they're like, well, you know, you can get emancipated, right? And then you can get on the hormones, or you can get some kind of court order, or you can, we'll start a GoFundMe. What's your mom going to say when we start a GoFundMe and we get the money for you to take the puberty blockers or whatever? What would she have done if it went that deep? She got off lucky. She got off really lucky. She got off really lucky. So Joe Biden is right that everyone is made in the image of God, but that doesn't mean that you chop up the image. And there's a video that speaks to this. Let me show you this video from Joy Reid's show, from this trans person talking. You got to look at the Chiron. This Chiron is unbelievable.
Are only unsafe at drag shows when a shooter shows up to kill them.
That's right.
That's where the threat is. I would challenge anyone just to get to know trans people. We are a vibrant, diverse community, as diverse as anyone else. You know, I'm from the great state of Texas. I served in the military. I go to church every Sunday. My faith is very important to me.
Okay. It says transgender shooting suspect sparks outrage on the right. Why is the outrage just on the right? Who would think to type that out? Shouldn't everyone be outraged that happened? But the commentary has shifted to Republicans bad. Republicans pounce. Republicans take advantage. I don't even see, people are talking about guns, but I see more conversation around like trying to come around and uplift the trans community in this than I even see conversations about guns. It's pretty wild. Why isn't this sparking outrage from everyone? So anyway, he says he goes to church.
But God made me in her image. God made me transgender. And To see these people so cynically weaponize this and exploit these children's debts and their teachers' debts, it breaks my heart. I wonder what those families are thinking right now.
What do you feel when you have somebody like Michael Knowles say at CPAC, we need to eradicate transgenderism, and when somebody like Tucker Carlson says that transgender people are at war with Christians?
I can't see Christ in their words. That's for damn sure. I can't see where the biblical principles of loving your neighbor and walking the walk with Christ that they can see. I can't see what they're seeing right now, because that's not.
Okay, so gosh, where do I want to start? So one, he did not respect God's pronouns. Because he called God a she, and God doesn't have a genetic sort of form. I mean, besides when Jesus wouldn't have had a body for 33 years, but God, in the word is he's identified as he. So you could at least this trans commentator, at the very least, you could respect God's pronouns. we could start from there. Two, God didn't make you transgender. God made male and female. He didn't make it swappable or something. For people who are like, what about intersex? You're still one or the other. There's you have two parents, right? You got genetic material from those two people of the opposite sex. There's only, you either produce an egg or you produce sperm, one or the other. It's just male and female. Gender and sex, it's pretty much the same thing. The word's been used interchangeably historically. You got to kind of blame the feminists for really inserting stuff as roles, and people just kind of took and ran with it. But still, we know that sex and gender are meaningfully intertwined. They're useless without each other. That's why people try to present, if it was just about how you identify, you wouldn't need to do all that stuff, but they're trying to physically match what they say they feel internally to help that actual dysphoria that they have. But in the Christian perspective, when people say, well, God made me this way, whether for whatever issue you claim, it doesn't matter because we're called to be born again. So there's that. But no, God obviously made this person to be a man. It's still very obvious. So going against that design doesn't change how God designed you. I mean, I guess I could go around saying that God designed me fat. I mean, I was a big baby. I didn't breach the 10 pounds. It was very close. But I made those decisions that crafted the body here before you. So you can't put everything on God. People make their own decision. Yes, God, we're fearfully and wonderfully made, and God knows you in the womb, calls you, etc. Blah blah blah. But as soon as you pop out that womb, people influence you one way or another, and you go from there. So you can't put that on God. For them to say go the route of they're exploiting the children, the tragedy. It's do they? I don't want to accuse them of not caring, but it's crazy how the conversation has just shifted. How much headlines and stories there are about this shooter trying to empathize with this girl who committed this terrible crime, and how angry people are about the pronouns. And they're like, they could have been a graphic illustrator if only the Christians didn't hate the gays. Like, she killed kids, regardless of however depressed she was, upset she was. She took her anger out on children and the three adults as well. But she didn't have to do what she did. And you could keep all that angst and outrage at the person responsible. But this whole Chiron, sparks outrage on the right. It's how can you not write that and see that going across the screen and think, even if you're on the left and this is your favorite show and you're sitting at home watching Joy Reid, how can you not be like, wow, maybe we're all clowns? How can you not feel that way? Like, honestly. So, no, sir, God did not make you that way. And then added in a bit of a swear word. Another thing, when you talk about loving your neighbor as well, the loving, when Jesus was asked by the Pharisees of which the greatest commandment, you got to know that they were always on this man trying to get him because they hate his guts. So they're always trying to trip him up. So they wanted to know what was like the greatest commandment so they could be like, oh, he didn't say it was this other one. So he said, love thy God with all thy heart. And so that covers a chunk of the original, commandments. And then love your neighbor covers the rest of them. So he's like saying they're all like pretty much important. So that was his workaround with that. So there's that. To love God, what did Jesus say? He said you have to keep if you love me, that you keep my commandments and feed my sheep. So if the order is like greatest commandment is to love God with all your heart, and then it's to love your neighbor, you have to commit to him first. You have to keep that proper perspective. And then you take care of your neighbor, your friend, et cetera, and keep those laws. But you have to keep the proper perspective. So if loving your neighbor puts you opposite of keeping God's word and commandments and stuff and living true to him, then you've messed up. And the Bible talks a lot about love. And love they're not feelings. Love is a commandment. That's a commandment to love your neighbor. And you know what it says about love doesn't rejoice in wrongdoing. So when people say, can't you use people's pronouns? I'm like, I can't lie for you. That's immoral. I can't lie for you. You might see someone who passes and you don't know what pronoun, you use whatever they look like, you're not going hell over something like that. But, and I'm not saying you're going to hell for using pronouns or whatever, but I know that you're a man. This person is a man. They're trying to push this lie, and I just can't help you do that. And that's not unloving of me, at least not in a Christian way. Whatever worldly way you view it, I don't really care. So, it must be a weird congregation. Must be a very weird congregation. I want to play the White House secretary saying some victimizing the trans community in this terrible loss that we had.
Kentucky legislature overrode the governor's veto of a bill that restricts aspects of trans youth gender affirming care and the use of bathrooms. I know that the White House released a proclamation for Trans Day of Visibility. There is a march happening tomorrow to commemorate this day, but also to protest these type of bills that are continuing to be passed and advanced in legislatures across the country. What is the White House's message to these lawmakers that are passing these bills and to those who are taking to the streets to protest them?
So look, first of all, we support peaceful protest. We think it's important for Americans and people just across the country to make their voices heard, just as long as it's peaceful. And we've been very clear about these anti-LGBTQ bills that we're seeing in state legislatures across the country, in particular these anti-trans bills, as they attack trans kids, as they attack trans parents. It is shameful and it is unacceptable. As you mentioned, tomorrow's Trans Visibility Day, on a day that we should be lifting up our trans kids, our trans youth, and making sure that they feel seen. We're seeing more and more of these hateful bills. And that's what Republicans want to spend their time on. They don't want to talk about lowering costs. They don't want to talk about actually making Americans' lives better. They want to take away people's freedoms. And one of the things that we saw during the midterm elections is that people don't want their freedoms to be taken. They want us to fight for their freedoms. And so it is shameful, it is disturbing, and our hearts go out to the trans community as they are under attack right now. But this is a president who has said many times before he has their backs. He will continue to have their backs, and he will continue to fight for them. And his record shows.
So she says people don't want their rights taken away. Was it yesterday that we played a video of her in the White House saying that we shouldn't have guns, like certain guns? Was that just like yesterday we watched? I don't know if it was exactly yesterday when she said it, but I think it played it yesterday.
Does the president support not just banning the sale and manufacture of semi-automatic weapons, but further than that, confiscation?
Let me just be very clear. What we're talking about, AR-15s, these assault weapons ban, they are weapons of war, and they should not be on the streets across the country, in our communities. They should not be in schools. They should not be in grocery stores. They should not be in churches. That's what the president believes. And he has done more than any other president the first 2 years on an executive order. And as you know, we all know how government works. There's only so much that he can do. And so now it's time for Congress to do the work. And he's happy to sign. Once that happens, he's happy to sign that legislation that says, okay, we're going to remove assault weapons. We're going to have an assault weapons ban.
AR-15 is a very, very popular gun. So there's that. So he said stuff about semi-automatic stuff before too. I assume we've talked about that at the time when he said it. He said like no one should have it or something along those lines. I'm like, he ought to know that that's basically all the guns. We're talking about getting rid of semi-automatic guns. So yeah, people don't want to lose their rights, and we have a right, like to the Second Amendment, to bear arms. You don't have a right to take your children to get their titties chopped off. You don't have that right. It doesn't exist. Even if you say it's healthcare isn't a right. Not in the United States. It is in other countries. But and even if it was a right, it's still would be a positive right that would require some kind of duty from someone else, because you require someone else's labor. So it's our rights to bear arms shouldn't be infringed, but they're ready to do that any moment that they can, especially during tragedies like this when emotions are high, to exploit people's feelings. And they'll pass stuff chipping away at the Second Amendment, but they know people are very passionate about keeping their liberty there. So that's why she's saying, oh, he passed some executive orders, but that we can't do anything unless Congress acts. So she's going to talk about people's rights. Joe Biden is very much our amendments aren't absolute. We can change stuff, tweak stuff if they want to. So the bills that they're talking about coming at people and trans people under attack, they're just stuff like, hey, don't give kids chemical castration drugs, etc. But that's so awful. So I mean, we can continue to debate it and stuff, but to act like they're engaged in open warfare against people, and they use a super hysterical language. And I mean, that's something I mentioned in my article. Like, they always do this mass exaggeration and as if they're actually being attacked. And if you don't say people's pronouns, or if you don't acknowledge them, then they're like, I don't exist. You don't think I exist. I'm like, I'm having a direct conversation with you. How do you think I don't think you exist? Do you think I'm talking to myself? Like, what do you mean you don't exist? Well, what kind of, like, would people use this language with you? Like, ask them, like, what do you mean by that? You understand what you're saying is ridiculous, right? You understand that you're like hyper emotional right now. Like, you obviously exist. I obviously think you exist. what do you mean by that? And let them think about that and stew on how ridiculous they sound. But then they'll say, if you don't affirm all that stuff, then you're killing them because they might go and unalive themselves. So there's all this emotional blackmail associated with it. And now it's, oh, looking at this shooter and people making these like sympathetic headlines and doing profiles like, oh, their parents were religious and the school was obviously religious. And so if religious people don't shut up, then you're gonna do stuff and then it's our fault then there too? It's like the math ain't math and something's not making sense. Something's not making sense. And it's insane that we live in a world where like all these levers of power is just pushing this absurd narrative again and again and again. I want to show you these two TikTok videos. Now this pretty big person on TikTok, I just saw them, I don't know, maybe a week ago. And I was scrolling through and I saw their live, and I think they have like 800,000 followers, something like really, it's a big channel. And this person is a trans woman, transition young, Kelly something, I think Kelly's the name. And I saw Kelly in a live and he was people were, trashing him, or there was trolls in the comments, but Kelly said something about his fake vagina. I hope that's not too crude to just kind of blurt out, but and said something along the lines that his is better than real ones. So I had actually screenshot Kelly, and I was gonna make a video like just blasting him, but I just didn't end up doing it. Didn't have the time, or it just escaped my mind or whatever. So yesterday I came across Kelly's video, and then just going off about people who are so concerned about the shooter's pronouns. So then I went back a few videos and saw the original video that sparked outrage from people on the left. And I don't know if Kelly's on the right at all. I don't think so. But because of the stance of I don't think we should respect a shooter's pronouns, people started calling him Blair White, which Blair is, right-leaning and also trans. So we'll start with the first video and then the recent video of clapping back at the people.
Really disgusted by some of the responses I've seen to the absolute tragedy that happened in Nashville today. I've seen leftists on here arguing that the reason this occurred is because of the anti-trans bills being passed in Tennessee. Excuse me? We had 6 innocent children, innocent lives just gone because someone was that selfish, because this woman, and yes, I think we should call this person a woman because they don't deserve any respect after what they just did. Are you kidding? I hope that's not even up for debate right now. There's absolutely no justification, no reasoning you can put behind something like this, because there is no reason. What happened in Tennessee today was disgusting. And truly, how dare you make a video, because this person made a video coming for the parents, trying to make the parents feel guilty because of what someone did to their child, their innocent child. I'm flabbergasted at some of the responses I've seen. These parents are going through mourning that I can't even imagine. And you have the audacity to sit there and make them feel like it's their fault. Really?
So after that response, people, I don't know how many stitches and videos or whatever people did, but it got like I guess a big response. As I said, it's a big channel. But I was reading the comments and people were like, oh no, we can't set that precedent of not using their pronouns. And it was crazy. Like, well, you wouldn't say that. You wouldn't call a slur to a black person if they shot up and killed somebody. And then someone else black in the comments was like, oh yes, I would. And but they just received backlash for this opinion of I don't respect a person who just killed kids, purposely went to the school If they had so much beef, and a reminder, this person was living, I believe, still living with their parents in their $700,000 house and was 28 years old. You know, if life was so like horrible, I guess you could have left their house. Let's watch video 2. It's amazing. Some of the responses I've seen with the pronoun stuff, especially when you consider just the context surrounding the situation, like the person being a murderer.
In America, we have this thing called freedom of speech. No one has to respect my pronouns. If I'm walking down the road and someone wants to call me he, him, I might be upset about it, but there's nothing I can do about it because that's people's First Amendment right. You know, I've done my entire transition. I've been on HRT. I've had 2 different breast augmentations. I've had the literal surgery. I have female anatomy, or at least the closest thing I can get to female anatomy. If I'm not offended, why does it seem like so many people in the community, particularly the non-binary community, are offended? Is it because a lot of you guys, the only transition that's taking place really is your pronouns? Is it because you take it so personally? Because to me, my transition and who I am is a lot more than my pronouns. It's a lot more than someone just calling me she, her. If someone calls me he, him, I'm still Kelly. I still feel like myself. I don't need a pronoun to define my entire existence. I don't need to use a pronoun and respect someone who unalived innocent children to feel like, oh, well, I'm doing it for the greater good of the community. If anything, you're bringing the community down, which is exactly what I think the trans visibility movement did. Because if you really think about it, you guys, back before like people knew what it was to be trans, before Caitlyn Jenner came out, it meant a lot more when a child would say, oh, I feel like I'm the other gender, because they didn't know what it meant to be trans. So it actually wasn't something that was just taught to them, right? They didn't just pick it up, hear it somewhere, and then think, oh, I want that label, and then they're gonna make a huge life mistake. If you want to call me a conservative, call me a conservative. I believe in protecting children. I believe in not respecting child unalivers. And I believe people that make transitions should go through a lot of therapy and make sure it's right for them before they jump into this. And they should be over the age of 18, honestly. And I'm saying that as someone who transitioned at 15. I truly feel like, legally speaking, the age in this country that you can consent to medication is 18 years of age. I feel like that's how it should be for HRT. Now, I'm not saying you can't experiment with like clothing when you're younger. I don't see the harm in that. But like, honestly, I'm very lucky to not regret the decision I made at 15 years old, right? I'm very lucky to be happy with where I'm at. Not everyone feels that way. That's why we see so many videos of people detransitioning lately, because kids are being fed this stuff thinking they're transitioning and then having regrets, and then they aren't able to get out of the body because of the permanent changes that hormones create. No one, like, I'm trying to protect people and you guys are making me look like I'm a monster.
So I think Kelly made a really good point. Kelly talked about it was a bigger deal prior to this becoming a huge thing. So interesting that we're having this conversation on Trans Visibility Day. Before it was such a thing that the media uplifted and Bruce turned into Caitlyn and won like Woman of the Year. Which wasn't even a woman for an whole entire year, you know, and there was all this like celebration and stuff around it. Like if you transition, it's like a virtue nowadays, right? So before all that happened and there was a big spectacle and you get all this love and attention that maybe you don't get in other kind of areas, in other kind of ways, and this is the thing that makes you feel special, whatever. Before that, if someone did think they were trans, that would be something that would be taken with much more care and concern to really figure that out, to take those steps, to have the therapy or whatever, and to see if that was the right path, instead of now this is it's kind of like a rocket into a particular direction because of politics, ideology, money, whatever the case is. I don't know. I mean, I think all those things play into it, but which one it is at the time, who knows? But they really took more time, and it was something that happened more in boys, and Kelly's a boy, who transition young, but now you see like relate, just I guess study or just observe. But Abigail Schreier's book talks a lot about the women, the young women who didn't have like early signs of really being trans, but they picked it up, whether it was on the internet, social media, Tumblr, different places, their friends group. One friend was, non-binary, then they become non-binary and trans or whatever. And because women, we really do feel each other's pain, like we empathize with each other and stuff. So when there's people in friends groups, it just kind of stuff can explode, So it's a phenomenon that we're seeing that's unusual, So before all this like media hype, it just was a condition that people would look at and then they would try to treat very seriously. And it doesn't get the same sort of care and concern that it ought to, because it's so mainstream. So when people tell me all the time, will complain about stuff, like I had a pretty viral video when I was talking about on Blue's Clues when they had their Pride Parade, and they also had like a thing where they show different pride flags and stuff. And people were like, well, it's very important that we have representation. And I'm like, no, it's not. Like, no, it's not. It depends what you're doing representation for and what's the purpose of it, etc. And I can understand why people would feel that it would be important for that representation. And I don't want people who have gender dysphoria to feel like I don't know, there's no hope for them or anything like that. I don't want anyone to feel unnecessary pain. But this is something that doesn't need to be glorified. Not everything needs to be so uplifted in the media, whatever. Some things need to be gatekept or whatever. You need to act as a gatekeeper. And this is something that people needed to do with that. You don't need people jumping onto it because it's a trend, it's a fad. You don't need people self-diagnosing themselves with gender dysphoria and then going on hormones and chopping off their breasts all within the span of and then detransitioning all back in the span of a year, which is stories that have been repeated from detransitioners. So, and this is something that people need to take a lot more seriously, but they can't because it's a pop culture phenomenon rather than people treating it like a serious mental condition. And I don't say that to be rude. I don't say that to be mean, but I'm just saying it because it's true. People aren't getting the sort of care and attention that they need because of fanfare. And that sort of, fame and notoriety that you get, whether it's, on social media, in your group, or during Pride Month or whatever, on Trans Visibility Day, it makes people feel special when the goal should be to make people feel well. Not necessarily happy, but well. Because happiness fades. There's such a good TikTok, this religious Christian TikToker and stuff was addressing someone, and their response was, a lot of things can make you happy. Like, what about seeking truth? Truth is more important. And they're like, and they said, a lie can make you happy. I'm like, gosh, it's so good. A lie can make you happy. Something utterly untrue. Something that is so untrue you can feel it in your bones. But if you choose to not believe it and it makes you happy, it is what it is, but it's still not true. It's still a lie. And I use this example a lot. If I called up my sister and said, hey, I'm going to make enchiladas for dinner, that would make her happy. That would not sustain her happiness. It would make her happy for a couple hours. I make really good enchiladas. They're really, really good. I would have my enchiladas over any restaurant's enchiladas. I make really good enchiladas. Not that they don't find good enchiladas other places, but mine are really good. But that's not going to sustain her happiness. That's not going to fill her with joy. So you got to seek something deeper than that. So people who are getting that boost of endorphins, you know, that shot of pride and ecstasy when all these people are clapping. I'll never forget this video of these girls in a park, and one of them, I don't know what's all going on, but only like the circle seems to be paying attention to a girl like on some kind of like little stage, and she says, "I'm a boy," and then her friends just start clapping, and I'm like, why are these women so excited to not be women? Why is that something to celebrate? Like, oh, well, they're being themselves. No, they're escaping who they are. And I think there's something sad about that. I think there's something deeply sad about that. And the way that people are treated if they don't clap along and agree is really perverse. Really perverse. So, as Kelly said, back in the day, when it was kind of more, I don't think anyone was gatekeeping it then. It just didn't get the sort of visibility that it obviously has now. We lived in a different world. And that's why you're seeing the numbers of people who identify as non-binary, trans, LGBT, just somewhere on the LGBT community really expand, because it is a trend. So, excuse me, my opinion, this is not something that should be shouted from the rooftops. You know, again, I'm not saying go out there and stigmatize and hurt people's feelings or whatever, which might be funny coming from some of the TikToks that you guys have probably seen. But I'm very firm, because I believe the truth is worth protecting and fighting for, and apparently we have to fight for it, or we'll be overrun and bullied and forced out of it. We can't allow that to happen. But I think this allegiance people have to this untruth is very harmful, not just to the children, not just to the young men and women and adults who get sucked up in it. I think it's ultimately very harmful for our society as well, just as a whole, and where we're going as a country. So that's why I speak out. But yeah, it's something that we should gatekeep. Would it be weird if people were like uplifting anorexia and bulimia and other things, like anorexic visibility day, body dysmorphia day? Like, if God made you to hate your body, go ahead and vomit out your insides. Would that not be weird? That would be weird. Obviously, we don't do that. We don't do that. So why is it that this is something? I think we should give people space to just let people know who's dealing with any sort of issue with their mentality, that people care and you can get help, and you should be treated like some kind of pariah, obviously. But it's really weird what we do with gender dysphoria. It's very strange. Very strange. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the show today. I think that was all that I had in my notes and stuff to go through. Yes, it was. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different articles, different videos, etc. that we have on the website. Check out different merch that we have there at the store, like the cool black tea mug. We got the "I'm Not the Victim You're Looking For" shirt, all kinds of stuff you guys can check out. Again, check out some of my books that I have. I do have, of course, God Is Blatantly Against Abortion available for pre-order, so you guys can go ahead and check that out, or you can pre-order right now if you have if you like to read on Kindle and stuff. Otherwise, sign up for like updates on the website. If you go to blacktnews.com, it's the landing page, so you will see it. So I'm very excited for you guys to read it. I worked very, very hard on the book, but I also have other ones. Mostly they are fiction. So go ahead and check out my stuff. If you like what I do here at blacktnews.com, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. It costs to stream, costs to run my website, need some equipment and some other things as well. So if you can, very much appreciate it. You can go to the website again and support that kind of way, whether it's a gift of $10, $20, $50 more. God bless you if you can. If you can't, I understand, if you don't want to, I guess I get it too. But thank you guys for watching, for commenting. People who watch it live, people who watch it back, all that really does help. And I am very much appreciative of every view. I really, really am. So thank you for your comments. There's a lot pouring in on different videos, so I can't get to them all, obviously, but I do appreciate you guys. I hope you guys really do know that. So make sure you guys sign up at the website for different updates and stuff, and when I'll be different places. And I got a Comic-Con coming up, so I'll be selling some stuff there. I have some people who've made some requests for me to go some different places. So if you'd like to make a request, you can reach out in the comments. Not the comments, I'm sorry, the contact page, and I'll get back to you. So God bless you, and I'll see you on Monday.